Hello, everyone, and welcome to our BuildShip live stream. We're back with our CTO, Shams, and my name is Colin, Enterprise AI Engineer. How you doing, Shams?
Hey, Colin.
So if you missed it yesterday, we released BuildShip.Tools, which is probably one of our biggest releases yet, and it gives the opportunity for backends finally to be able to vibe code. So this is BuildShip.Tools, and you can start building any tool you want for AI agents with a prompt. So we have a few examples here that you can work through. You just click here, enter, or you can go through our community library of tools that are constantly being added to as we get more use cases. What I like about this is as we build out more use cases, the agent gets smarter because it's able to go and look through old examples and help you build exactly what you want. But until then, enter something that you want to build, hit run, and our new conversational AI agent will help you build it to get a very good start. So, Shams, any thoughts on kind of what this allows people to do that couldn't be done before?
Well, we tried to build the assistant to help you plan out everything. And you can, like, once the plan is ready, you can always modify it and ask for changes. And then a lot of like the agentic stuff that we've implemented is around like trying to break this down into like steps, like generating a plan, then researching which node is good for trying to find if we have something in the library. If we don't have it, then we generate it. All of this stuff makes it actually really special compared to other vibe coding tools where every time you ask it for something, it would generate the entire React app, right? So that kind of behavior is, we feel like it's not good enough for backend development because we try to make things that like more efficient and more secure, and reducing how much AI generates code and versus like using something that's already been tested and deployed helps a lot in terms of making sure things are reliable.
What I really like about it too is just kind of how explainable it is. Getting like a plain English sentence instead of trying to understand like which variables need to be put in and out and what the logic is really, really helpful. So you see just the ability to like first come up with the plan, like Shams was saying, and then be able to kind of modify the plan in plain English, saying like, okay, I see that you're searching with complexity. Can we actually just add OpenAI web search in parallel? And it should go out and branch that out. So really like highly customizable. Instead of you trying to like build one node at a time, you get something like this where you say, okay, this looks pretty good to me, but in order for this to really work for my business, I know that we are trying to compare our performance on OpenAI web search and Perplexity, for example.
And I think like the fact that it helps you visualize the code, like the flow in terms of, or let's say like the backend task that's being implemented, makes it a lot more sustainable as like for vibe coding goes, where it's, so I like to vibe code a lot in terms of front ends, but each time I do it, I have to start over because I have no understanding of what the code is. And then it's in terms of like the code that was generated, and then every time I try to create an app and then I want to iterate on it, I have to start over because I wouldn't know how it was structured. But with BuildShip tools and the BuildShip with the Compass build AI builder, you're able to see it. Whatever is generated is understandable and visualizable. And when something breaks, you can see where it broke compared to when you're vibe coding on a front end vibe coding task and there's an error. It's not clear where things are breaking.
And what I like about this too is when you're building backends that have high explainability and high repeatability, like let's say you have 3 or 4 tools that you're using for your vibe coded front end, like eventually it seems like we're going towards everybody can have their own custom front end for however they want to interact with the tool. So if you have a service that's basically 3 tools and you want to ship that out to somebody, it's like highly curated custom 3 tools, then they can just generate whatever front end they want to work with. They can brand it their way. They can make it, Ghiblified. So this is a really nice way to ensure you have some repeatability, structure, explainability to like what the apps and tools that you're building are actually doing.
Yeah.
So Shams, today we're going to walk through, this is what we released yesterday. Check out our live stream. We have a bunch of videos up on YouTube. If you want to listen to my voice a bit more about how to do this. But today we're going to be talking about 2 things specifically. We have a new export as function capability where you can self-host and export your code. And we also are going to talk about some of our enterprise features, compliance, and just kind of how to get started if you are really trying to build this into an existing business. So Shams, why don't you give just an example of what types of things we're using tools for, kind of a simple example, and then we will show those 2 capabilities, self-hosting and enterprise readiness.
Yeah. So I've been using like MCP-Tools like since we started building this. I was first a bit skeptical about MCP, and then once I tried it, I connected my I'll share. So I connected my MCP, my Claude to different workflows that I have on BuildShip as tools. I started to be able to be more productive, and I see how like I'm able to create, say, like invite an early access for someone, or create an integration group on BuildShip, or actually this one I'll show, which is like add an FAQ. So for you, I'll show you. So on BuildShip.Tools here, we have these FAQs. So do you have a question that you want to add here? Or do we cover everything as a demo?
So I was muted. I think something I see often is people don't know where to get started with tools. So like, what should I actually start with?
Okay.
How do I identify in my business what tools I should be building?
Okay.
And personally, how I would do that is map out kind of my day job. What are the types of things I'm doing all the time? And that's, talk to an AI and have them help you do that. And then we actually have a tool that you can remix, which is like tool ideas based on job description, which we've given a little bit of a structure of like what makes a good tool. It goes out and researches your a given job role and description, and comes back with like 20 of the top repeatable tasks that you might be able to use using AI based on Reddit discussions and Perplexity search, all that stuff. And it seems like what works well for tools at this point, and I'm sure this will kind of expand as AI expands, having very clear inputs and outputs. Text inputs are better right now. MCP isn't great at handling files yet.
Okay. So wait to.
I think it just sent it instead of.
Oh no, it won't. So we'll decline, or we can allow it.
Maybe iterate on the FAQ a little bit first.
Yeah, we should.
Maybe just stop this one.
Okay. No, I think this is good.
There we go, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this is better. But I kept... So here we'll add and then we'll remove it later. But we can choose to allow this request to call it, but what it's doing, and then we can use it once or always. But what it does is that it will call this workflow that we have here. So this, and then basically, I think for anyone who hasn't seen this, I'll just do quick. But we already have this documentation here, which mainly you want to be able to copy this command, and then in the terminal, you'll be able to paste it. Let me share. And then, so basically it pulls it creates your MCP server, and then that redirects to the BuildShip. And then so now you see it reset the Claude client so that it refreshes. But we did lose our request. But basically, it has the question and answer, and then it will. So currently, this is authenticated to my GitHub account, and then the way we have this set up is we have a file here that is. Let me see, where is it? So here. So we have a JSON here, and then that has all the questions and answers. And basically, it fetches the latest document, and then it comes as a base 64 string. So then we convert it into a JSON, and it's an array of questions and answers. And then we have a JSON generator node where it's basically giving it all the existing questions, so that in the question we can evaluate if to give us the index. If it's a new question, it can give us a -1, so that we know it doesn't exist. Or if it's an existing question that the user wants to update, then it will give us the actual number. And here there's a condition that says, like, if the index is -1, then you can go here, which is attaching the new question as the last question. Or if it's not a new question and there is an index number, then it will replace it here, and then it will set the index, and then we'll send it to that. And basically, you can generate this expression using AI, or you can write the JavaScript, but it's really flexible to be able to create this. And so that's like the tool that I've been kind of like building in terms of like just doing internal actions that we use day to day.
James, maybe you can show just the code of one of these nodes for anybody new. So like we have Compass, the AI builder, the conversational AI, but that's kind of the vibe codey 20,000 feet view. And then you can do what Shams did, which is kind of like the low code, looking through this visually. And then you can also look into the code of each individual node as the JavaScript function. And that gives you kind of the full range of looking at it from a high level versus zooming all the way down to the details and coding it yourself. So very, very good for senior developers who really know what they're doing, but also great to get started if you have never coded before.
Yeah. Another thing I want to show off is the new. Another thing I want to show off is our new export feature. So I'll get started on this one. So we'll do a very simple branch, and then we'll say like and then I want to just show off the new export code feature that we've introduced. And then what should we do? We should we can just export this actually.
It's the output.
Yeah, we can see the output. I think this. And then let me open my cursor. Development. Cursor.
Can Cursor call tools as well?
Yeah.
Like, can you add tools to agents? Yeah.
So it's basically the same as we showed with the Claude, but this one's here. So I think they do have. I haven't added actually. I've been just using the Claude agent, but I think it might be in the set. Yeah. So here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we have. Let me check, but
I think we have a walkthrough of how to add to Cursor as well.
So I'm not sure. So
and as we get more support for other agents, like check out this agent builder. If you have an agent that you're working on and you would like to show people how to integrate with BuildShip.Tools, reach out for sure.
Yeah. So basically we'll add more documentations for different builders, and we are open sourcing the if I can find the I'm not sure where it is, but you can hopefully we can show. We'll add more, and then people can also contribute different agents here as well for documentation of how to use tools with their agents. But yeah, I wanted to show this. So basically, this is the exported code that we just exported. So you can see here, it generated this condition. So if we go here, so you see this conditional, we're able to generate JavaScript code. So you can take this and host it wherever you want. And the idea is that you'd be able to run it as an MCP or as a JavaScript file, or like as a JavaScript anywhere on your front end or your back end, depending on the logic you have inside. So, but the goal is that you'd be able to self-host this. And this is still early, but we'll keep extending it as well.
I think there's a couple limitations, like the AI switch node, which can't be used, pause functionality in OAuth nodes. So there's a couple kind of edge cases that can't be added. But I think this is a feedback we've gotten a lot from people, is we'd like to be able to self-host the code because they have certain compliance requirements within their organization where they have to run it on Azure or whatever. And so now we've let that be up to you. So Shems, if we are kind of using BuildShip as our IDE and then exporting this whenever we have an update, and like kind of updating that on wherever we're hosting it.
Yeah.
Is that feasible for people to do? Like, what would be the right kind of workflow?
Yeah.
For something like that?
So currently this would be, so you would be able to, so you export this, and then it basically gives you this function, which describes the workflow. Because we didn't add any nodes, it would have added the code for as well. But you could host this anywhere. You can run it here. You can deploy it on your own, like any cloud provider, and you'd be able to use it just as you would with any Node.js server.
Great. Okay, good. So self-hosting, you can run it anywhere you want. I think that's a big feature that a lot of people have been asking for, but you can always host directly on BuildShip. So either it takes one click to host on BuildShip and use in whatever application you want, or for many enterprise users, you have your own systems infrastructure set up and you can now self-host and run. So that opens up a whole other category of use cases. We're really excited to see what you build there. So I've put my cal.com, my calendar in the comments here. So cal.com/Colin-Andrews. So if you would like to set up some time to understand how to build tools for agents for your business, we'd be very, very happy to discuss with you.
Cool.
So Shams, let's talk a little bit about just general enterprise readiness. So I think talk a little bit about data security and compliance. Like what does BuildShip do for to ensure that sort of thing?
So internally, we do like, we have to make sure that everything we do is like all the sensitive information that we track and everything is stored appropriately. So, and there's a lot of processes that goes into it, especially like the different underlying infrastructure that we use. So we use a lot of GCP under the hood, and all the products that we use are compliant, and the different providers that we integrate with, the configuration of the products that we use is also important in terms of like making sure that nothing is sensitive is publicly accessible, things like that. And also a lot of in terms of monitoring the system errors, monitoring the deployment flow, making sure no bad code goes into production through review process, things like that. And that all that just ensures that you have a more stable and more reliable backend platform that you can deploy your APIs to, and now tools that you want to use with your agents, either be it through a Claude client or even like any type of customer-facing agent as well.
Yeah, great. I think a lot of the feedback you hear on like the podcast circuit right now is a lot of the examples you see from agent builders and tool builders for agents. They look like toy examples. They're not really like useful immediately. There's a couple good ones that people use, like the lead qualifier and reaching out and writing a blog for you. But when you get down to actually reading the blog or like looking at the email that was drafted, it doesn't really fit something that is the quality you'd want to reach out to a human with. So I think where the most value is coming in is you need to look at your specific business, your specific enterprise, and say, what are the tasks that we do every day that we can internally optimize? And that's not something that somebody building out a generic tool is going to be able to figure out for you. So when we were showing the tool builders here, like this stage where you go and you look at what this Compass builder has built for you, and you go into the instructions and make sure that it has the context from your business. If you're using Supabase, you go in and make sure that it has access to the right tables and the right information so that you're able to then build in these workflows into your business. So I think before we really focused on the enterprise compliance, BuildShip was very useful for vibe coders, but we do have a lot of enterprises now that have onboarded and are building very, very complex, like their whole stack on BuildShip. I like the example of BuildShip is built on BuildShip. So everything that we speak about as being possible, our AI Compass was built entirely in BuildShip, for example.
Do you want to see some of that actually?
Yeah, that'd be great. Some like a more complex flow and how we manage it.
So
generally.
let me see if this is the right one. So as you can see here, basically, so it is. Let's see. So let me zoom out a bit. So it does some authentication validation, so like that you're authorized to, and like you said, a lot of these things are hard to do when you're as a template, and it's all about your personal use case or your company's use case. So it's hard to say like you can copy this and use it for yours directly, but the idea is that you're able to build something just as complex for your needs. But in terms of the Compass implementation, it's basically, it's checking for your authorization, it's checking if you reach the limit or not, and then the biggest thing is that it checks using an AI switch, it decides which path to take in terms of depending on the user intent. It will say, okay, does the user want to create a flow? Does the user want to generate a node? And then once it detects that it wants to generate a node, it will direct them to another flow. So internally, to keep the complexity of this logic, we separate these things into multiple parallel, like separate flows. And then here we're doing a lot of background research in terms of like what does the user need to generate this node. We search our internal database of nodes and see if we find relevant nodes in the library to infer. We extract, once we find this library, we like extract from our database the whole node document versus what we have in like the searchable directory, and then we loop through that, and then we push it to the Compass, and then we basically like generate. So here we can we generate sample values, and basically that goes into another flow. So that kind of level of nesting, but also packaging things up to keep them understandable, rather than becoming more and more overwhelming as your project gets more complicated. Here you can see that each section is like logically separated. So for example, if we want to generate the input nodes, like test values for the node that we generated, we have this flow here that only does that. So you get that level of abstraction. So we can like go back and
for me, like I coming in after seeing like the first iteration of this and then having somebody walk me through, instead of having to look at like this massive code base, being able to just say, okay, like step 1, step 2, step 3. It's like how they teach kids how to code, where it's like, first you do this, then you do this, and then you export. It's just now enterprise ready.
And what we've seen with enterprise, because they have a big teams, is that it's so much easier to collaborate, because you don't have to go line by line and try to like understand what a colleague's work is intended to be used and which part it belongs to which part. As you collaborate, you can just focus on the part that you're involved in, which is abstracted away either in a sub workflow or an individual node, and the rest is structured so that you can navigate yourself around the code base. It is a code base, it's just a visual code base, right?
So it really seems to reduce risk for enterprises, because everybody has that developer in the corner who like is the only one who knows how to work within the code base for a specific thing, but having these highly explainable code bases seems to be a new feature of AI that lets us be able to build things and collaborate in ways that we couldn't before. So even BuildShip, like we're a completely international company. We have people all over the world. Shems is 10 hours behind me and our CEO is 7 hours ahead of me. So like we need to be able to collaborate across time zones, across communication styles, everything. And so building in BuildShip and communicating through BuildShip helps us a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just being able to visualize the backend part is just really, like, I think because when you're developing a front end and you have the UI elements, that kind of helps with that some visualization of what's going on in the app. But when something as a backend, it's just usually it's just a black box for other than the backend developers in the team. For the rest of the rest of the team, it's a black box. You might have, for the front end team, you might have an API spec or documentation so they can see what gets in, what gets out, but it's still a black box. But with BuildShip, everyone in the company can see. And then with the enterprise plan, we have soon we're rolling out the role-based access control so that you can have literally everyone in your team, basically having access to BuildShip in terms of viewing different things that they can access to, and that helps a lot in terms of understanding what's.
Yeah, and look out soon too for like that plan that the AI creates at the beginning. That's something. It's just like a plain English way of looking at this. So even looking at BuildShip now, you see, this is not necessarily highly explainable. You kind of have to understand what a BuildShip node is. But when you looked at what the plan was written as in plain English, we're going to be playing around with how can we make your workflow even more explainable to different audiences at different times. So look out for that next.
So I think like visualizing the structure, I think it not only does it help you with understanding what's going on, and then even like someone in the support team can understand, okay, this is where something might be going wrong, or you might have an idea for something and it helps you prototype it faster, and then you can validate faster as well. I think a lot of users of BuildShip start out as it's a great prototyping tool, but because we host it and we scale it, then they'll like tend to stick around. And so it kind of like, that's like an interesting way of like, okay, a lot of people see it as like, okay, I can visualize what I'm thinking and I can build something, and then it's already built. Just
ready to go. Like, so what does this workflow do? You can get a whole response of what's happening. I think the most fun I've had with BuildShip so far is when somebody asks me like, hey, like, could you ever do something like this where you have like a list of audits controls that we need to go through and a big transcript of how we reached out to people in our business for our consulting firm, and like go through that transcript and make sure each of these questions we were supposed to ask has like a complete answer to it. And it's something that they said, maybe in a few months we'd have something ready to use. And literally in a couple hours, you have it. And they're like, oh, that's a great proof of concept. And you have to explain a little bit like, no, it's actually the thing that you want. Like you can actually go and release this now and use it. So there's a whole new paradigm with agentic work in general and this kind of vibe codey functional tool where, it looks like a proof of concept because it was so easy and quick to build and explainable because you're just used to code and production systems being black boxes.
Yeah.
But change that mindset and you will be the AI champion for your company.
Yeah. I mean, so we build BuildShip and for the purposes of building a scalable backend. So basically, like all not only the compass, but all the APIs. Every time you click somewhere, like shipping a workflow or looking at your logs, all of that goes into a BuildShip flow somewhere. And basically that's not like at the scale that we're operating, it's no longer a proof of concept. And it seems to be doing all right.
Yeah. So if you want to be the AI champion for your company, if you have some ideas of things that you think would, how agents can augment your work, I don't think the right mindset is to go in and say, how can we get agents to replace some of the work that we do? It really seems to be, what's the type of like research work or analysis that I couldn't do before because I didn't have the manpower. And even if I did have the manpower, it's like thousands and thousands of research tasks. What are the types of systems that I would build if I had an infinite canvas? And go out and think about those, map out your system diagrams, and then choose one and just go and build it and see that you can actually get this thing right and working for your business.
Yeah.
If you need help with that process, reach out. We'd be very happy to help you go through that and get started.
I think now you can like basically vibe code your logic flow as well, right? With the compass before starting. So you can vibe code the like or chat with Compass, the AI builder, and then be able to visualize that logic. And then you can build on that as long as it. Yeah. What are you trying out now?
I want to build, onboard my employees through an onboarding process, step by step. So you can imagine having like a spreadsheet with the tasks that need to be done, and then a set of criteria for what the employees need to be able to prove that they've done. So it'll give me something kind of basic to start with, but then I can say, this is doing it a little bit differently than I would want to, but I could say, let's start with a CSV, which is steps we want to through. Then, and another input is the evidence. So this is very much so a proof of concept, but start with like the basic of, can we just get AI to do what we want it to do? And then see if the plan will work out, and you can go back and iterate it. So here we'll have the onboarding step CSV and the evidence submitted, parse the CSV steps to just see what are the steps that we provided, and then check off the steps, see which ones are remaining, and output them. But then we can do things like update the Google Sheet, if any of the steps and start getting like external actions done, things like that. So here's a great place to kind of iterate. And you can even ask it questions like, how do you think we can optimize this flow? So you can imagine as AI gets better as well, just the ability to kind of have a companion to vibe code with, and then when you're ready, go out and build it out and make sure that it's ready for your specific use case.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, if something doesn't work for you now, I would say like the best is to like use the thumbs up and thumbs down. Don't be shy to press the thumbs down and tell us what's going wrong. So that will definitely help us improve it, and it will get better over time, as well as we build it out more and add more features, it would be a lot powerful in the long term.
Great. So I think we spoke through a few things. We introduced Compass, our vibe codey conversational AI builder that lets anybody from the CTO down to a junior developer or even somebody on the business side start thinking about what types of workflows they want to build for their business. We talked about the export as function, so you can now get all of your code self-hosted and put up on Azure or GCP, or you can just ship with BuildShip as usual. We also talked about being able to ship as MCP to get Claude set up. And what else did we talk about? Enterprise readiness. So we have this a free tier for anybody to use. So go and try it out today. Go to BuildShip.Tools and get to vibe coding your backend. And then you can just kind of incrementally increase as you're ready to add new seats, add new functionality. And if you want some of the enterprise features that we spoke about to just kind of immediately get into this, let us know. And we're happy to build out a custom plan for your needs. But my favorite thing to do is just kind of jam with people on how they can build these things into their business. So please reach out. I'd really look forward to hearing some of the things you're dealing with and what types of agents you want to build. All right, anything else, Shams?
No, I think, yeah. Oh, yeah, the product hunt is, did we cover the hunt?
Product hunt is live. Come give us an upvote.
Yeah, more to 200 now.
See if you can be the 200th. And yeah, look out for future releases. I feel like a lot of these features have come from community feedback for things like, hey, we need to be able to export our code so we can be compliant for our business. So let us know what you need. And some of our best customers, we have an open line of communication with. We talk with, every week at least, and can quickly fix their issues or answer their questions. And it really feels like a nice community to build with. So thanks for being a part of it. Thanks for listening. And thank you, Shams, for getting all this done. I'm impressed.
Thanks, Colin. Bye.